You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Engle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here. That's a pretty quick cutoff for the music again. I got to do better with that. Good to be back in the studio after traveling the high seas for the last 10 days. We haven't been on the last couple Fridays. We've had some bad internet issues on the cruise this time, and I'm still fighting to get my money back. We did do one live show, Super Bowl Sunday, so we're live. We're here on Northeast Streaming Sports. We're simulcasting to Let's Talk Sports. You can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. So welcome all of you who are watching in all of those venues. We're going to get into a lot of stuff today, and I'll welcome my co-host, the Mad New Yorker, Carlos Chavez, in here in a second. Just a couple of things. We'll talk a little bit about the NFL. I want to catch up. I know Carlos might have his own thoughts too, but we haven't talked about the Super Bowl. We'll get our final thoughts on that. Some interesting coaching moves with both coordinators leaving the Eagles. Eric Bieniemy finally deciding he's had enough of maybe Andy Reid taking the bulk of the credit in the offense of the Chiefs. We'll talk about that maybe, and some cut information. Maybe some baseball expectations. We got March Madness coming up. Who will supply that madness? And listen, guys, I want to thank Dan Harris from Let's Talk Sports. We're going to start up our new interview series very soon. In fact, I think I've got my first one next week. We got some great guys coming up. I'm going to start with, and it's a little bit off the beaten road maybe for a sports talk show, but Tom Dreesen is a stand-up comedian who's been in the business for, 60 years. Opened for Frank Sinatra. Huge Chicago sports fan, Cubs especially. I'm looking forward to talking to Tom. I grew up watching him on The Tonight Show, on Mike Douglas, all these shows, and he's a very funny man and a big sports fan. I want to have him. I'm excited to do that. I think we'll get that done next week. I don't know when these will air, but these are all people Dan got set up for me for March. That I asked him to reach out to. Jim Kern, former Major League Baseball pitcher, really good pitcher with the Indians and the Rangers. Chuck Foreman, really good. I mean, if he had a longer career, he'd be a Hall of Famer. Really good running back with the Vikings, finished his career up with the Patriots. Kermit Washington, a very good NBA power forward. Unfortunately, his career is known more for one punch to Rudy Tomjanovich than a lot of good play on the basketball court. Jim Sundberg, former Major League catcher with the Texas Rangers and Kansas City Royals, won a World Series, that controversial 85 series, I want to say. And Matt Robinson, former Georgia quarterback and former Jet and a Cleveland Brown quarterback. So we'll have all that stuff coming up in the coming months. They'll be the first ones we run off, and there'll be more and some more big names as well. So with that, let me welcome in my co-host, Carlos Chavez of Mad New Yorker. Good morning, Carlos.
Hey, ahoy there, mate. How you doing? Happy Friday.
We're getting our land legs back. I got a bad earache, man. I've had an earache since Monday. I can't get rid of it.
Welcome back to reality, man.
I don't suppose my earache will get any better this morning either. getting together. No, it's good to be back with you too.
We'll see what kind of topics you bring up.
Well, we're kind of winging it a little bit, only because I'm trying to get back into the swing. Good morning, CA. Good to have you back. Moved the darts for a little bit. Good for you. Awesome. I don't know. Well, let's start with the NFL because we'll go wherever we go today, and we always find a way to eat up an hour. We haven't talked about the Super Bowl.
Nope.
I was on that morning from the ship, and the game pretty much went. I wouldn't say it went exactly as I thought. The score was very close to where I thought it would be. I predicted the Chiefs would win by a couple of points. It would be a very close fought game. I thought it'd be more back and forth than two teams dominating each other in different halves. Listen, I think Andy Reid kind of will now get his credit. If he didn't have it before, as one of the great coaches in NFL history. Patrick Mahomes further solidifies his standing as the best quarterback in the game today, and he will quickly move up the list of all-time quarterbacks if this continues. And I'll say one more time, for you Eagle fans and other conspiracy theorists, shut up. Holding is holding. If you don't think it was holding on the penalty, watch all the replays, not just the ones you like, and listen to the defensive back who said, "Oh, I held him. I just didn't think they'd call it." If it's holding in the first quarter, it's holding in the fourth quarter. End of story. Anyway, Carlos, jump in.
Come on, Keith. The fix was in.
God.
No, I mean, so I picked the Eagles. I thought they would be able to take their group of talented players and make some noise, and they did make a little bit of noise, but it just wasn't enough to overcome the scoring potential that Kansas City actually does have, that Andy Reid just kind of doesn't push all the time, and it was good to see that finally. And so I did say that if the Chiefs would score more than 27 points, they'd win this game, and they finally scored points, and that's the point of the game. And kudos to the Chiefs, Andy Reid, and Mr. Mahomes for doing what he has to do, which is his job, to be a quarterback and take his team on his shoulder and make that run. And on a bad tire of all things.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was flat at all. I'll just say it was bad.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know we were going to see him in the second half. The way he came off the field, he looked like he was hurt worse than he was when he first heard it. But, and a lot of
the conspiracies keep going on, Keith. The whole Michael Jordan / anybody who comes back hurt.
I know.
It was Willis Reed moment.
Terry Bradshaw. It happened to Terry Bradshaw for years. And Terry Bradshaw, if you go back and watch the hits Terry Bradshaw would take, and then he'd go off to the locker room. He probably played with 27 concussions, for crying out loud. Patrick Mahomes is a tough guy. There's very few guys in the NFL could have played. They could have played. To play as well as he played for a couple of games with that injury was remarkable. They're the new Patriots now. The Chiefs have become the new Patriots. Mahomes is the new Brady. In the fact that people want to hate them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll put it like this. The Chiefs are good. Let's pump the brakes on calling them the next 49ers, the next Patriots.
When I say Patriots, I mean people's minds, not what they'll do. I mean,
right. Well, let's take in consideration also that we've been in the last few years watching some pretty poor, mediocre football as well. So not to say that they're not good, but they've been excelling at a level that hasn't been, high for the last few years due to a certain situation that's happened in this world. But at the end of the day, they've all taken the field and they all have to do their job. We've complained as fans about the fact that they need to play more in the preseason so that we don't see that kind of mediocrity. So, but it is what it is. The Chiefs won. The Eagles did not. Missed call or no call, they should have scored more points. Jalen Hurts, unfortunately, dropped the ball when he shouldn't have.
Right. Let's not forget all the mistakes the Eagles made during this game and kept the Eagles.
The only one mistake that he made really cost them two scores.
Yeah.
If you think about it. So, and it gave the opportunity to the Chiefs to get back into the game. So, but credit to Jalen Hurts. He did play a pretty decent game. So, we'll see. I think we'll probably see the Eagles maybe back. Because I don't. The NFC East looks like it's gonna be going sideways this next season, and we might see the Eagles be back one or two more times, maybe if they can keep it together up there.
Well, here's a problem with the Eagles. I'm not saying this is going to derail them totally because other teams have had this happen to them, but they've now lost both their coordinators to head coaching jobs in the same year. It's happened to other teams. Happened to the Patriots before.
Yeah, I mean they were coordinators, right? And everybody's like, well, they'll have to, pick up the slacks and keep going, right? The same thing happened to Tennessee. Mike Vrabel hasn't had an offensive coordinator stay there for more than 3 years, and since he's been a coach. So, I mean, it happens it happens everywhere in the NFL, and so we'll see what happens.
I think these were the only two hires since we have been on the air where this was Gannon goes to which one went where? The Chargers, right?
Yeah.
And who went to the Colts? How do you say this guy's name? Stetchen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can pronounce it. I'll leave that one alone for a minute.
Yeah, I you look at. I don't know how much.
I myself, like Aaron Rodgers, has just come out of the dark because I did not get any sleep.
I'll get to Aaron Rodgers coming out to whether he saw his shadow or not in a second. I want to finish up on these assistant coaches. One big story that I think people are overlooking is the fact that Eric Bieniemy, after being passed over for it seems like 20 years now for head coaching jobs, has decided to lead the Chiefs for the Ravens. And a lot of talk, a lot of chatter that I've seen the last couple of weeks is that Andy Reid, maybe not purposely to keep Eric Bieniemy from getting the job, but Andy Reid likes to take a lot of the credit, which I think he should, because I see Andy Reid making the play calls. I don't know about anybody else. Right. But Eric Bieniemy may feel that Andy Reid is either purposely or inadvertently keeping him from getting a head coaching job because he takes a brunt of the credit for the Chiefs offense.
I think it's fair to say that there is an issue with the situation in Kansas City, and Eric Bieniemy wants to not be in the shadow of a great coach.
Yeah.
More than it is that he doesn't have the tools to be a good coach. Now, saying that, he does have a checkered past and does not.
Many years ago. Now, again, I'm a guy who is hard on these guys. So this is a long time ago. He was a kid. So
right. So, and he has his checkered past, like you said, many a year ago. But his situation and personality, whatever it is, being looked over and picked over after so many different types of interviews and whatever the issues is that he has. He's finally going to get a second an opportunity other than the Chiefs with Mr. Ron Rivera, which is a great situation to be in.
Oh, I said Baltimore, right? I'm sorry, Washington, right?
Yeah, with Rivera, because this would help Rivera actually balance out that defense that he has there. And we all know that Ron Rivera has always had a decent defense. And we've also always known that no matter where Mr. Rivera's been, he's had a semi-okay offense. So this will be able to balance him out and give Mr. Bieniemy an opportunity to be an assistant coach somewhere else. Will he become a head coach? I would say probably not, considering the fact that the way the NFL is going towards the new younger faces and different offenses and things like that. But who knows? Maybe after this situation, the Washington Commanders get an opportunity to be in the playoffs and make moves, and it's a possibility. But it's neither here nor there, and I think it's less of a chance for him to be up in those meetings again to be a head coach.
Yeah, and let me just say a quick good morning to Bob and Jeanette Engle. Thank you for tuning back in. Good
morning, Mr. Engle.
Might be some nepotism there, but we'll talk about it. Eric Bieniemy, maybe it's just possible he doesn't interview well as well. I mean, it's not like he doesn't interview. He interviews for 12 jobs a year.
Can we just pump the brakes on Mr. Bieniemy and how he interviews? This is a city that's had a couple of coaches for the Giants and the Jets who you kind of just question, why did it even get the opportunity? Let's not forget the Jets had one and the Giants had one, and it was a mess. And luckily, people say winning cures everything, but firing those guys helped more than winning. So, and I don't even want to mention their names because.
What are we talking about, Brian?
Who?
What are you talking about? What are we talking about here with the Jets and the Giants? I lost
the former Jets coaches and the former Giants coaches.
Former Jets. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I thought we were talking about the current ones.
No. That's for another episode, and that's for another day.
So we haven't had the let's before we go on. We got to talk about, unfortunately, the groundhog, Aaron Rodgers. He, as we know, he went underground for 5 days, but he came out early. Because I feel he came out early because the Jets trade talks are heating up and he wants to stop them cold, because I don't think he wants to play for the Jets. But I did hear you saw his shadow, which means he'll play 6 more years in Green Bay. That's what I heard.
His contract will go over 100.
Is there any nuttier person ever in sports right now than outside of Kyrie Irving than Aaron Rodgers? I mean, this wasn't a horrible place. People think he went into a cave somewhere, which he did go underground, but it had a master bedroom suite. It had a nice bathroom. I read about all this stuff I can't believe more people probably don't do this. But I think people think he went into a cave, and pulled a rock in front of him and just sat there on a stone.
All I know is that all these fathers are like wishing they would have that kind of vacation, because of the kids are being home from spring break and some winter breaks, and so I'm sure a lot of these fans are like, man, I just wish I had a blackout.
No, he says he came out early because he's found the clarity that he needs to continue on with his life, which I'm sure is horrendous. Dating supermodels and, gorgeous race car drivers and making $50 to $60 million a year. I know it's got to be hard for Aaron Rodgers to be Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what to make of this. You're a Jet fan. Do you want to win bad enough to bring this on into New York? He'd be a nightmare in New York, this guy.
So my perspective and my idea of being a Jets fan is like, it's always about drama. And, for once, can we have a young crew, young team, a lot of potential? Can we stay away from getting any kind of drama? The Jets are still going to have to decide whether they keep their head coach. They just got a new offensive coordinator.
They're not firing their head coach this year,
but they still have to decide whether this is the year that he steps it up. And
he's going to get the same amount of time anybody else gets. 3 years is what you get, basically.
Yeah, and then you still got a few players that you might want on your team or you don't want, Ala Wilson and Mekhi Becton. So figure those things out for clean house, make it nice and neat, and then bring in some more nastiness to redo it again. Don't.
Look, there's an argument to be made. The team could win now with a quarterback of the caliber of Rodgers.
Yeah, but I feel like every team says that when they kind of make the playoffs, kind of don't.
Listen,
every team that has 7 more wins are like on the precipice of being a playoff team and on the road to the Super Bowl. And I don't really think that's a reality, because every football season ends. And tragically, your record ends as well. So then you have to restart and do it all over again. And sometimes the next season isn't as great as the last season. And I think as football fans as a whole, not just as Jets fans, we need to kind of wake up to that reality. Like, yes, we had a good season last year, but this next season is just going to have to be a whole new season. And what happened last year is not going to happen this year.
Yeah, but there's no reason it can't be better. They've got a solid foundation, except for the most important position.
Why don't you ask the Vikings that question? Ask the Vikings and the Viking fans that question. Why can't it be better?
You don't think fans would trade with the Vikings today? You don't think they trade franchises today and the records they've had the last few years? I mean they're not winning. They're not winning Super Bowls. I get that. At the end of the day, that's the deal. But how many options? I mean, the window of opportunity, and you just said for Robert Saleh, he's got to do something this year.
Right.
He could probably do that with Derek Carr, but he's not going to win a playoff game. Is getting to the playoffs enough to save Robert Saleh's job?
No, it's not.
Then who do you to play quarterback?
And the reason is that he came in with the idea that was going to be a top-notch defense from the get, and he's just now getting to that point. And if that one player is not on the field, will they be a top-notch defense?
Which one?
Sauce Gardner.
Oh, well, every player's got their linchpin player, and he's it. He's a great, great player.
We got lucky on that one, right? The Jets got lucky. Look, I feel like if the Jets would have 4 or 5 players on the defense, like when what's his face was here, who's looking for a defensive coordinator job, one of the twins, I can't remember his name, Ryan. When Rex Ryan was here,
yeah,
he had 6 players, right, that were on the defense that even if one was out, they would balance out, and they had enough depth to kind of just be like, he never had a team on the field that couldn't compete defensively. Now, offense was a whole different
Well,
if Curtis Martin wasn't on the field, they had difficulty scoring. That was just guaranteed.
Curtis Martin wasn't on the team with Rex Ryan.
I'm sorry, not what's his name? The train. What's his name?
Tomlinson.
No, not yeah. Well, no, it was Tomlinson and then the other guy. Anyway, but besides the point, if those guys weren't on the field, like Mark Sanchez kind of like was out alone, right? So on the limb. So
by the way,
Salah hasn't done that. He doesn't have a group out there on defense that will always be competitive with that.
But
now that he has Sauce Gardner, he has one guy. Now he needs like 3 or 4 more guys that could, be there. So
how many teams in the NFL have that luxury though? Because of the salary cap.
A lot.
Nobody has that.
The Chargers have it. The 49ers have it. The Dolphins have it on offense. There's a lot of teams that it's either offense or defense. They have 4 or 5 guys that can actually keep them competitive.
I would also argue some of that is just dumb luck because you didn't know that Brock Purdy was going to be able to step in as your third string quarterback. And
no, I'm not talking about Brock Purdy. I'm talking about the defense that they have.
Where you're sticking with the defense. Well, that's fine. Again, but you don't always know those guys are going to step up. You don't always know that. They've been lucky that they have had guys that can do that.
Yeah, but, I mean, if you take it back to old football, the times when we were younger watching, and you had like the '86 Giants and you had like the Denver Broncos. Like you had always 4 or 5 players either on the offense or the defense that gave you that competitiveness. They say like if the one opposite of me with the defensive offense didn't play well, we can't pick up the slack, right? So the Jets they have a lot of potential. They're young. They don't have that yet. And so Salah has to find that within the team.
They don't have a leader on their offense.
It's not just about leadership; it's about playmakers and
they have playmakers. Garrett Wilson's going to be one of the best wide receivers.
Okay, so that's on their offense, right? So if we're talking about the offense,
the defense is good enough to win today. It is. The defense is good enough to win today. They're lacking a quarterback. That's it. I mean, I'm not saying that's it. I mean, to get to the next level, they're lacking a quarterback.
Yeah,
This team was not a playoff team with a quarterback this year. They would have been.
Okay, so they won 3 more games. How far would have they come in the playoffs?
They were 7-3 when
I'm saying if they won 3 more games, how far would they have gone in the AFC in the playoffs?
That's not what I said. I said they would have made the playoffs.
But I'm saying if they made the playoffs and with the team that they had, how far do you think they would have gone?
They would have lost in the first round.
Yeah. So,
but again, would have made the playoffs. That's certainly different than finishing. What they finish? 8-9. I don't know what they finished. 7-10.
7. Yeah.
So I mean, again, the team's better than any quarterback. The problem is, even I'd make these arguments. There's not a quarterback that's available that I would say you should go out and get.
Yeah, I felt the same way too. You kept throwing me the question, like because I disagree with you with having Carr, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers would be the best fit here.
It looks like Carr's going to be your guy, but
I hope not. I mean, and there's people saying maybe Tannehill, and I'm like, well, I don't like Tannehill, but Tannehill's if you look statistically, Tannehill's stats are a little bit better than Carr's. But regardless of that, those 3 guys I don't want anywhere near New York.
Yeah, both of them are fine. They put up numbers, but they don't win in the playoffs. What do you want? And that's what do you want, right? Now, Derek Carr's a good guy. If you want to bring him in and try to, make a reclamation project out of Zach Wilson, I still don't. Now I'm turned around. I argued for him for a long time, and I'll tell you I was wrong. He's not going to make it in New York. He doesn't have the makeup to make it in New York.
There's a lot of stuff missing from that cat, and
he might star somewhere else. It's not going to be in New York.
Yeah, he just needs a little bit more. He needs to be put through the grinder a little bit more and getting toughed up and a couple more things. Maybe a little bit more. He's kind of. He could be like a Geno Smith maybe if teams pick him up and play him.
Take 8 years to become a decent quarterback.
I mean,
it's funny. Geno Smith, it feels like he ought to be 40 years old. That feels like a million years ago Geno Smith was with the Jets.
I don't know. It feels like yesterday he got punched in the face.
Yeah. On the other side of town, it does look like Daniel Jones will be back. What is going on Whether they let me finish. Whether they come to a deal or they franchise tag him, he's gonna be the quarterback.
Jeez. I don't know. I don't. And to this society, are you serious, Giants? Are you really going out to bend? Okay, I feel like the Giants should be like the Yankees and be like, I don't care who you are. We are the New York Giants. We will decide whether we want you on our team. You don't get to decide whether you want to be on this team or not. And the situation that was leaked by one of the radio people here saying that he's heard that Daniel Jones never asked for more than $40 million. Whether or not that's true or not, and whether he's trying to get back in the good graces of the Giants, like the Giants just say yes or no and just move on. Right?
They don't have to sign him to anything. They can just franchise him, pay him whatever.
That's more money than they need to spend. That's the problem. That's more money than they spend. In fact, I'm pretty much on the same boat as the people who think that maybe Daniel Jones will stay in New York, but in the other side of the locker room and play for the Jets.
I was just going to bring that up, actually. And I meant to mention it while we were talking about the Jets. If I was a Jets and really wanted to make some noise in New York, I'd go out and sign Daniel Jones. That's what I would do. I
would still just try to stay away
from good with that team. With those weapons, they got some weapons on that team. He'd be really good there.
I don't know, man.
Just saying.
I'm not a fan of Daniel Jones, and well,
that's become obvious.
And I don't want to say this in the he's kind of like, to me, like a young like was at Tennessee. Where,
Who?
Young, the UT quarterback, the Texas quarterback.
Oh, Texas. I thought you meant Tennessee. Sorry.
No, yeah. When he played for the Titans.
Yeah, I can see the similarities there.
Where he was like, everybody expected him to have a big arm, to be athletic, and Tennessee didn't really have a good offensive coordinator to put everything together for that quarterback. So,
I don't think, and this will sound like it's going to sound awful. I don't think that. I'll get branded a racist probably, but listen, I don't think Vince Young had the makeup to be an NFL quarterback. He didn't have the intangibles that it takes.
And
not because he's black. There's plenty of very good black quarterbacks who have those intangibles, have won Super Bowls, and have gone out there and been able to be a leader of men. And he didn't show that he could do that.
I don't even think it was like a leadership thing, to be honest with you. I think it was a confidence thing. Like, he was too confident because of where he was coming from.
Oh, but yeah, I agree.
To humble himself and be like, I got to start all over and make myself a true NFL quarterback. Like, it was. He had the skills and the ability. He had the arm. He just couldn't facilitate plays that were not made for him.
And
I think that was a situation where Vince Young had with the Titans.
Yeah.
And they pretty much wasted his talent because at that point, football was kind of starting to flip anyways, and they were trying to make him a pocket passer and give him things that were over what he did in Texas. So
there were times it looked like he was going to get over the hump, and he just never did. Every time he'd get better, he'd regress.
I'm not saying Daniel Jones was the exact same player. I'm just saying I feel like the same things happened with him, where they had different coordinators come in and they didn't help Daniel Jones. Now,
I think their skill set's very similar. That's what I'm saying, right? The skill set, and I think that's what you're saying. Their skill set's very similar.
Yeah, and I think Dable with the smoke and mirrors
every year he's gotten better.
Yeah, well, I think Dable this year with the smoke and mirrors proved that Daniel Jones was an okay quarterback. However, he also proved that Daniel Jones needs to be a better quarterback because the last game they couldn't do anything and Saquon couldn't do anything, and that just didn't work out for them. So
against a team nobody did anything against except the Chiefs.
And so then again, all those 5 games they came back to win was actually 5 games they should have lost.
You win, you win.
I'm just saying, like, it's just apparent that they were not deep enough to make a playoff run.
They did not have the skilled players around Daniel Jones to be able to compete with the best teams in the NFL. That I will agree with you. The coaching and the quarterback play, which was an extension of the coaching, is what kept them afloat. I'll agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and the And to me, I don't understand how Dable got the coach of the year, because the two players that you had, even though they didn't want to be there and you paid too much for them, or you got them on a rookie contract with Kadarius Toney, and then you got what's his face that didn't do anything.
That trade looks great right now, doesn't it, Tony?
Yeah, and then what's his name?
Galladay.
Yeah, Galladay. So it's like, those, to me, if you're the head coach, and those are your two guys, the speedster and the guy that's supposed to be able to make breaks and plays, you set one and you got rid of the other. How did you become the coach of the year? I don't understand.
First of all, the coach didn't trade him. The coach didn't want him probably on the team. Like, but I think
again, you said that the Giants weren't deep enough, and they had two guys that one proved that he wasn't worth the paycheck, and the other one proved that he was fast enough to play and had enough skills to be in the NFL because he won a Super Bowl on another team.
Well, there's got to be reasons they want him out of here other than his potential, because he had great potential. He was only in the second year. They drafted him in the first round, right? The back of the first round, I think.
Yeah.
And he had good potential. So something with his personality, something wasn't working in New York.
When he didn't come to, when he was missing the shoe for the preseason workouts.
Galladay, but I wouldn't compare those two guys because Galladay's just a dog.
I'm not saying. What I'm saying is that those are part of two weapons that you needed on the field, because you know what you have in Daniel Jones. Now you need to facilitate and give him some kind of weapons, and those two weapons somehow or another you didn't. Not only did you replace them, but you weren't able to replace them with anything better, right? So
I gotcha.
That's what coaching is about at the end of the day.
There's not been a lot of cuts yet. We'll see some cuts here, as we get closer to the draft and whatnot. We'll see what big names go. I know the Patriots are talking about cutting about $52 or $62 million worth of players.
So do the Patriots pick up Bobby Wagner?
I think it depends. I doubt it'll be before the draft. It'll depend on the cost.
Will they pick up Tyler Lewan?
Again, I think everything's going to depend on the draft and what these guys want. They're not bringing them in at top dollar. Every one of the players, you can bring up any player you want. They can get more somewhere else. I will tell you that. Because they're going to cut some guys that haven't really, Trent Brown's likely to go. Hunter Henry may go. Jalen Mills may go. Devontae Parker, all guys getting paid a lot of money and didn't perform to that much.
Out the door, right.
So they're not going to sign guys for the value they could get somewhere else. So there are possibilities. Bobby Wagner would probably be a good fit here, especially if Devontae, oh my God, Devin McCourty retires. They're going to need that veteran in that backfield, I think. But
yeah, I feel like Bobby Wagner is one of those guys that'll fit in, like maybe on the Dolphins defense or one of those teams that are just very close to being the Super Bowl team and just need that one player.
Yeah.
For depth, I wouldn't pick him up and have him start.
No.
And play him 100% all the way, even though he did play 17 games last year. And he's only 32 years old. I wouldn't get him to be the grinder on the team. I'd get him to support, what I got going on. So
yeah, he's 32 years old with a lot of miles on him, though. He's a great
player.
Yeah,
man. He did his best. He did his best work for Seattle. So
let's talk some Major League Baseball. Obviously, since I've been gone again, pitchers and catchers reported, and I think everybody's reported now.
Yeah, everybody's playing it.
Spring training games will start
Saturday, tomorrow.
Yeah, we find out that we're going to continue with the runner on second base, which I guess I won't get into today because I got to explode. I don't understand why we got to change the whole game. Plus the other rules. We'll talk about it a different day. Right now, what teams you think should be excited about their prospects as we head into spring training? What teams shouldn't be excited, and maybe who's excited, and maybe they might have to, reel themselves in a little bit?
San Diego, I think, needs to have a wake-up call. They're spent money. They have made moves, and they need to win. They need to put themselves out there, and they need to beat the Dodgers. They need to beat San Francisco. They need to do it early, and they need to make it. And they need to make a. If they don't set the precedent for what this season is going to be for on the West Coast, because the East is going to be a mess anyways. The East, all those Atlanta, Philly, and the Mets are gonna go at each other like rabid dogs. But if San Diego doesn't make it right now set a standard, and that's hard to say because you are going to be going against the Dodgers and then San Francisco. They made a few moves, but if they don't set that precedent, they're not going to make it. And I've been a proponent for them for like the last 3 seasons, hoping that they get further than what they've gone. And sun come through. See, I'm talking about the Padres, so the Lord is like, oh, shining a light on me. And because I like baseball, and I follow certain teams here in the area locally, but I want to see good baseball, and that team has a lot of potential. They have a lot of talent, but right now they're spending too much money for what you're not getting on the field. So
I'll tell you that as a man as old as I am, I remember the Yankees. After they rebounded in the 70s after a down period, George Steinbrenner went out and did exactly the same kind of things that Padres are doing. You go out and pay big money for a bunch of guys who just couldn't play together. Mm-hmm. This team, to me, now maybe they'll show me I'm wrong. They got a good, strong manager, so that might help.
Yeah. But
they're a problem waiting to happen when Fernando Tatis, whenever he does come back, he's going to change positions. He's going to find himself soon enough the 4th highest paid guy on his team after they signed the shortstop. Help me out. It'll come to me. Bogarts. They already got Manny. Soto's got to get paid. Right. And Tatis, who signed that long-term contract, which is, I hate it when they sign these kids and then they give them outs because, when it becomes obsolete, they're going to have a problem in that locker room, I'm afraid, unless somebody really steps up as a leader. Who's the leader going to be? Manny?
No, well, Manny said that he's already going to be out if they don't do anything this year. He's already mentioned that he's
That's not how leaders work. So that
exactly. He's already got one foot out the door, so he's pretty much.
That answers that question for me. So
and Manny, to be honest with you, and let's be real, Manny Machado has always been a good baseball player, but he's not. I don't feel like he's ever been one of those true leaders on the team. It's always been about his skill.
No, I agree.
It's always been about his bat, his skill, his defense, but never has it been like, oh, Manny Machado is going to pick the team up and they're going to go on and he's going to carry the team. He was the best player on the team for the
Orioles.
The Orioles, yeah, Baltimore for the longest time. He was the best player, but he wasn't a leader at all. So
absolutely not.
And when Buck was mentioning that he might want to bring him to the Mets, I was like, please do not do that at all, because what happens here is that the Mets would use his bat for sure, but that attitude where I'm in to play and then I'm out the door, like that would mess the chemistry up for some of these players have on the Mets. So
and Buck dealt well with them, but he, again, not the leader. Adam Jones was a leader on that team when they were good and they were going to the playoffs, and that's going to hurt. That's what's held this Padre team back for a while. But the last few years they've been very talented, obviously,
right?
Get more talented every year, and they don't win. So everybody's going to jump under. No, I shouldn't say that. The LA haters,
right?
Sorry, Mark Mancini. Will certainly jump on the San Diego bandwagon because they hate the Dodgers. The Dodgers are still the best team in that division. Sorry, until you beat them, they are.
Yeah, I think for sure that one of the people that is considered a leader is Soto, and I say that in a sense where
quiet leader,
he quietly, because even though he's getting paid a lot of money, he's there. He's he's talking to players. He's picking them up after they make mistakes, and on the Nationals, they were doing that to him. And so some of those players,
a lot of veterans. They had a lot of veterans.
Zimmerman was, would be in his ear, like people were in his ear, and then now he's in people's ear. So I feel like Soto is a leader in that sense. And on top of that, you could tell when he makes mistakes how he goes back to the dugout and he's like, yo, I did this. I made the mistake. Let's move on. Like you can see him talking. He's always next to the coaches, always next to, he's always ready to get on the field. So those things, I feel like he's the unspoken leader right now, that team. Where Soto goes, the team will go. And I'm okay saying that. I'm not sure all of the Padres are okay saying that.
No, I think that's fair, and I think you may have some selfish guys there that could cause a problem.
That's the thing. It's the players not being able to humble themselves to say, even though I'm getting a big paycheck, I'm not the best player on this team.
I think there's another team in the American League that is in a similar situation because they've invested tons of money over the last several years. They had another big offseason this year. The Blue Jays need to get to a World Series or they're going to blow the whole thing up.
Yeah.
I think it's World Series or bust for the Blue Jays this year.
Yeah. I think
everybody goes.
Yeah, and I think you're right about that. And I was sure that Don Mattingly was going to go that route, and maybe try to save that team because that looks like a team Don Mattingly can work with. They kind of look like the early years of the Dodgers. And I was like, they have the potential. They have a lot to play defense, okay pitching, and the motivation. What is their motivation over there? Do they have to be statewide to do better? Because it seemed like when they played in the States, during the COVID years, they did better.
Yeah.
They had better games. I won't say they did better, but they had better games.
When they played in Buffalo, you're talking about?
Yeah, played in Buffalo. They played in Tampa, right?
I guess they played some games.
So they had a few games there where they were like playing good baseball in the States, better than they were playing at when they were at home. And it just, I don't know. And maybe it's the players feeling comfortable or uncomfortable. There's it's a lot of young guys that need that need leadership, but not necessarily on the ball field, but from their actual coach, from the actual managers. After
that implosion, where they blow an 8-run lead when they lost in the playoffs, I think the deciding game they had an 8-run lead and blew it.
Yeah,
Schneider, the manager, with Don Mattingly sitting next to him on the bench, I wouldn't get all that comfortable, John Schneider, because Mattingly's a bench coach there. So maybe Donnie will end up in that chair yet. We don't know.
Listen, but I feel like those kind of things have, and I just heard a few weeks ago that Bochy picked up Mike Maddox and Greg Maddox for that pitching staff.
Greg Maddox is there just for spring training. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, so I was like, wow, that's kind of smart to do. But again, that pitching staff could be great, but that's not the help that they need down there.
And I don't think Alan's with us because I think Alan started a new show this time on Let's Talk Sports. But so I don't know how much we'll see him going forward. But I keep telling him he thinks this team's going to make this big jump, this 30-game improvement. DeGrom's already been set back. He already got an injury. Now I know it's not serious, but this is just par for the course for him. He can't keep that body healthy. And if he pitches 12 or 15 games, this team's going to finish under 500 again.
Yeah, I said that was the number, right? I said, you asked me how many games do you think DeGrom pitch, and I was like, I don't think he'll pitch more than 12 or 15. I said that to you. Remember?
You will find out, as I said, and you probably did too. This is going to be the worst signing of the offseason in Major League Baseball.
Now here's the thing: if
the Mets didn't make,
but give credit to the Rangers. If the Rangers have enough talent, if he sits out enough to where the Rangers have got themselves in a position to be in the playoffs, then maybe it's a better deal. But then again, why
No, yeah, but that's my thing. If you were a player away, okay, take a chance, but you're not. I mean, you got the worst on base percentage in baseball. You got a bunch of retreads in the rotation outside of DeGrom. Everybody gets excited about, God, who's the lefty that they signed who's, he's got a below 500 winning percentage for his career. He's at about one, Andrew Haney. Who gets excited about Andrew Haney? Now, maybe he'll go out and win 20 games this year and make me look like an idiot. But Andrew Haney, I'm not getting excited about. John Gray, nice pitcher. Can't lead your team. Perez, nice season last year. He's 31 years old. When you have your best season at 31 years old, I'm not holding out a lot of hope that you're going to have a lot more great seasons. It's just not a team ready to win.
Yeah, they're not. There are a few guys out of.
They're getting ahead of themselves. And listen, while we're talking about teams to be concerned about, as a Yankee fan, I'm not terribly happy with my offseason, to be honest with you. I brought back Judge, which I'm very happy about, but I got freaking
I don't feel good about that Rendon deal, man. I feel like that's going to bite them in the butt.
I was not happy about the Rendon deal either. I got ripped in all the Yankee groups for I think I did a vlog about it. I did. I thought it was a bad signing. The guy's only had 2 good years in his career.
Yeah.
He's had injury problems. He didn't pitch well when he pitched in Chicago, which is a city similar to New York when we talk about spotlight. Plus, I got Aaron Hicks playing left field still. I got Josh Donaldson playing second or third base.
Again.
I got the same problems I've had before. I can't manufacture runs. Bader will make a big difference, but we needed a guy like Benintendi, or maybe even exactly Benintendi, in left field, and that would have been a nice combination with Bader to be able to generate some runs when you're not hitting home runs. I see it, and now you got Montos out for the year.
What a loss.
I mean, and we don't know. Severino's always a question mark whether he's going to make it through the year. So this, all of a sudden, his starting rotation doesn't look as great. Now, maybe Clark Schmidt steps up. I love his stuff, and I think eventually he will be a starter here, and he may have to be sooner than later. But the Yankees, listen, they'll probably make the playoffs. They'll probably have a very good regular season, but I see the same problems once we get there.
Well, the one team they don't have to worry about is the Boston Red Sox.
Red Sox, if they don't finish last, I will be shocked.
And I'm surprised that they were able to they were doing what they're doing, and even having the manager there to not stop that and say, hey, let's get some support, fill some holes up. And I don't know what and they're not ones that they don't rank in the top of the minor leagues as far as having a system that they can feed off of.
No, I think what they're doing is going to, punt the season and have a bunch of money to spend for next year in the free agent market. That's what it looks like.
And to me, that's what I really dislike about baseball when the Diamondbacks do that, when the Rockies do that. Now that's going to be the Red Sox doing that, and I feel bad for Red Sox fans because they go out and they support their team. They're not like the Diamondbacks or the Rockies in that sense, or any other team in the Major League Baseball. This is an outstanding, and I say that with respecting the fact that their fan base is who they are, not where they're from, but with a good team. They used to have good teams up there, or at least competitive. And let's see if they can string something together. I mean, maybe they'll beat the Yankees if the Yankees don't pick up another couple players that they need.
What you mean, beat them in one game or in the standings?
That's no, in the games, man. In the series,
we'll see what happens. We'll see. If there's a team to watch, I'm going to give you a team to watch that had a good stretch last year, but they didn't have a good year, and they haven't had good years in a while. I think the D-backs are on the right track. I don't like the trade they made with the kid. They moved to Toronto. His name's escaping me at the moment because I've been away and my brain's still catching up. They traded an outfielder who I really like to Toronto. But I like what they've done by bringing up their kids. They built through their farm system, basically. I think this team could compete, and maybe for a wild card. Again, they could be like the Giants a couple years ago without 107 wins. You're not winning 107 games.
Right.
I don't think the Giants will be any good. I think that was you talked about smoke and mirrors earlier. Gabe Kapler got it done for 1 year. With all those retreads and all those platoon situations, you got to hit it right, dead on the head to get that right. And it didn't work last year, obviously, and I don't see how it's going to get any better this year.
Yeah, I feel like maybe the Oakland A's. Let's put the drama of of them dumping pitchers and players out of the way. Let's get the stadium situation out of the way. Let's get the fact that they're a smaller, team, and I think they're a team to watch. They've always done a good with their farm system, but I like what I've been seeing from them in the last 2 years and their farm system, how they built it, not just pitcher heavy, right? So here comes Alan.
You missed
already talking about the Rangers, man. Moving on.
I don't know when maybe I missed that. Maybe you were here when I was ripping your team, but I was ripping your team again. Great. Thanks for popping in, Alan. You do sense a topic for a vlog, several of them. MLB thinks the Yankees will have the best rotation.
Yeah, because they haven't played anything yet.
Yeah, well, I could say, the Rangers you'll say the Rangers will have the best rotation where they don't have any.
Right. I think still, and we haven't talked about them. if we mentioned the NL East, the best rotation, and I'm not going to say this team. I'm going to say maybe it's going to be a toss-up 1 and 2 between the Phillies and the Braves.
I think it's Braves, but I think the Phillies could take a step back. I love Rob Thompson. I'm glad he's getting his full-time shot now. Did a great job last year, but this team's still got some defensive holes. I'm just not sure they can repeat what they did last year. We'll see.
They picked up the Phillies picked up the pitcher from the Mets, and he's always a question mark. But it's not.
He get hurt.
I know, but it's not. It's the fact that he'll give you some 5 to 10 games that he pitches really good, and
in the first half of the season, not when it matters. And
right,
not when it matters. Again.
Sometimes when you play those games, it gives you if you're in one of those short series, 3-game series, it makes your team feel better. So and it makes your confidence come up, and that's kind of important in the beginning of the season to drag you through the summer months of June, July. So
I will, by the way, be on with Alan in his Sunday night show this week, and I'm sure the topic of the Texas Rangers will come up. So this could be a Mad New Yorker moment coming up with me and Alan. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We got a couple minutes left. But
I think the Mets will do all right, and I'm hoping they go over 100 games again.
I think the Mets are going to be fine. And again, you know what I think about Buck. So real quick, because we got March Madness coming up, we'll touch quick. All these topics we're going to touch on in more in depth, obviously, with football, other than the draft and some other stuff. And football never goes away. Jeez. And Major League Baseball we'll get more into, but March Madness is here. Are we going to have madness? I think we're going to have a lot of madness because I think there's about 18 teams that could win the national championship, to be honest with you.
Yeah. If you look at the top 25 teams, the AP or even the coaches poll, you'll see 2 or 3 teams different there. All those teams can be in the mix, and those there ain't that many teams that are mid-level conferences there. So I'm thinking those mid-level conferences are going to shake up some people's brackets.
I do too. Well, we could call Houston a mid-level conference, right? They're not a major.
I'm sorry, mid-major. I keep saying mid-level, but mid-major conference. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're ranked number 1, and they're in a mid-major, right? They're the Gonzaga this year. So Houston's been very good under Kelvin Sampson, and they'll go in. They possibly could be the number 1 overall seed. We'll see. But you're right. I think there's a bunch of teams. And I'll give you a couple right now. You can kind of comment on them or throw anybody else in you want. St. Mary's out west, they're going to beat Gonzaga in the regular season finale. So they're going to beat him in the postseason tournament. That's my prediction. I've been predicting it for weeks. It's a very good team. They'll end up seated higher, maybe as high as a 3, higher than Gonzaga in the tournament. Gonzaga's not as good as they've been. Timmy's a nice player, but they don't have the guards to go deep in the tournament. They could be a first-round exit. Oral Roberts, Kenny Gifford has been talking about Oral Roberts for months, and he's right. They're very good. It's unbelievable. We talked about it Wednesday night, how they can't be ranked. How are they not ranked?
They're RPI.
Yeah, well, I get it, but look at some of the teams ahead of them, and their RPIs as well. I mean, stop taking all these 5 and 10 teams in conference play.
I know it's crazy, right?
These better teams in here. Oral Roberts also has some good history recently in the tournament. Iona or Siena. Siena's kind of fell backwards this last couple of weeks in the MAC, but Iona's playing really good basketball under Rick Pitino. Mm-hmm. It could be somebody that can knock somebody out in the first round. And those are the ones from the smaller schools. And some from the bigger conferences, but teams that have been a little bit down in the past. Watch out for Miami, who's number 1 in the ACC, the Miami Hurricanes. TCU's getting healthy. Michigan State, with that tragedy that went on out there, I mean, it's a shame that type of thing has got to motivate a team. But
University of Michigan.
Happened before. Michigan State. And Tom Izzo is just a great coach in March. They're going to be ranked very, very low, and they could do some damage. So, and Arkansas getting healthy, another team. So, and here's the sleeper of the better teams, Marquette. Nobody's done a better job in the country this year than Shaka Smart at Marquette. Picked to finish 9th in the Big East. They're going to be a 1 or 2 seed.
Yeah, and I mean, what's incredible to me, if you even look at all the standings and you look at the mid majors, those schools that are like 7 and 10, there's a lot of them in every conference, are competitive and can possibly give some of these bigger schools a run. And the only problem is, again, some of these bigger schools don't have depth. Where the mid majors, these guys are a little bit older.
Depth in
on the roster. So, like, I feel like if you're going to win a
experience, was I was going to say, depth and experience. The mid majors do. The kids stay there for 4 years.
Right. Or they've been there a little bit longer than 2 years. Yeah. So I feel like right now the mid majors, some of these teams have an advantage. With the bigger conferences, these teams, they'll have 5 or maybe 6 players, but you need 8 to be competitive and to stay in the and to make that Final Four run. You need 8 players, and some of these bigger teams, they don't have that. They have 3, 4, maybe 5 players, and you're gonna see that it's gonna be tough for them to move forward. And even though they're highly ranked, so these major conferences are gonna give them a big run. I think more now this time because of the parity than before. Like,
Well, when it comes to looking for Cinderellas, I look for teams like St. Mary's,
Montana State,
who have experienced guards. That's what wins in this tournament. You get good experienced guards, and teams can come out of nowhere to kind of disrupt things. And I think this year will be like any other, maybe more so in the first couple of rounds than we're used to. So I think it's going to be wide open. And Alan talks about we don't hear much about Oklahoma and Oklahoma State all of a sudden, not Alan, because Oral Roberts is the best team in Oklahoma. But so, again, another thing I disagree with Alan on is the fact that the Big 12 is going to get 8 teams in, and one of them's 5 and 10 in the conference. To
be honest with you, I don't think it's going to happen. I think this year they're going to be more scrupulous, and they're going to just go in there and get those mid majors that can give these guys a run, because people want to see that. People want to see. They want to know who these guys are going to be coming in the NBA. You don't want to go to an NBA draft and not know 70% of the players because they're in mid majors.
Look, I don't want to see teams like the Mountain West. I think the Mountain West is really good this year.
Yeah.
Nevada, Utah State are going to be on the bubble, but we're going to put in teams that are 5 and 10 in their conference. These teams are both, 11 and 5, 11 and 4 in their conference. A good conference.
Even Hawaii's had a few games here and there. Hawaii looks like they can maybe sneak out of that conference. Like, listen, again, and I hate to say this because this is what it's become, but it's a TV thing, and if it's about a TV thing, the mid majors are going to try to get them more involved so that way people know the names of these kids when the NBA draft comes through. I'm telling you.
What people like, especially the first weekend, everybody loves Cinderella, but come the end, they want the blue bloods to be, in the Final Four. That's what they want.
And what I love about this year is I'm not hearing this stuff about Duke and North Carolina. Like, they're having problems, fine, whatever. But I just hearing them all the time, it's like it's been ingrained in me to be like, what's Duke doing? What's North Carolina doing? And now this year, I don't even have to worry about them. I don't even look for them.
They both possibly could sneak in. I don't think Carolina should get in. Duke probably will get in. And I think Hubert Davis is going to be in trouble at Carolina.
I don't think so. I think it's just like the reality is what, the changes are huge in the NCAA for all sports. The transfer portal, the NIL stuff, the fact should the players stay or go for the NBA draft. Those things are all becoming more and more. They're all just kind of compounding and just have a snowball effect.
No, Hubert Davis smells a lot like Matt Doherty to me right now.
Oh, don't say that.
Run last year early. Now it's starting to fall apart. Matt Doherty was a bad move by Carolina.
Well, Hubert Davis gets fired. The Knicks should fire Tibbs and hire him.
Oh, Jesus. Well, that's for another show. We'll get on the NBA sooner or later. We should have got on today because I think the Knicks are playing pretty well. But we'll get to
fire Tibbs.
Carlos, great show today. Good to be back. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. Stay warm or cool or whatever it is, wherever you are. Have a great weekend. See you guys later.